It's hard to put into perspective just how good of a hitter Larry Walker was. There is one stat, though, that can sure go a long way toward helping us try. My name is Drew Creasman, and these are the fantastic feats of Colorado Rockies history. OPS is a peculiar stat when you think about it, combining two other statistics that do a fine job on their own, on-base percentage and slugging percentage, and mashing them into one super stat that ultimately does a pretty great job of measuring overall offensive firepower. The guys who avoid outs the most often and tally up the most number of bases are the highest value with the bat in their hands, and in that regard Larry Walker has no equal in Rockies and nearly baseball history. His Colorado OPS of 1.044 or 1044 is almost difficult to fathom. Consider that only 3 times since Walk left the team has a single player managed an OPS over 1,000 for the Rocks in a single campaign. Nolan Arenado, Carlos Gonzalez, and Trevor Story have never done it. The last time it happened was Charlie Blackmon back in 2017, when he put up one of the best leadoff seasons of all time. His OPS was exactly 1,000. Troy Tulowitzki at 1035 cleared the mark in 2014, but also only played in 91 games, meaning a full season and just a few off games could have seen him fall short. Back in 2007, when Matt Holliday should have won the National League MVP, he too crossed the 1,000 OPS mark with a 1012. Those are the 3 best individual seasons of OPS since 2004 for the Rockies, and they still fall short of Walker's 9.5 season average. Walker posted an OPS over 1,000 5 times, and over 1,100 3 times. His mark of 1172 in 1997, his MVP year, may stand forever as a Rockies record. As you might have guessed, Todd Helton hung in there as Walker's best competition here, also posting 5 seasons of an OPS over 1,000, but a career mark of 953 still falls short. Interestingly enough, that's good enough to put Helton at 23rd all-time in MLB history, but there is Walker just ahead of him at 19th. If you counted only his time in Colorado, though, Walker would have the 5th highest OPS of anyone to ever play this game, behind only Babe Ruth, Ted Williams, Lou Gehrig, Oscar Charleston, and Barry Bonds. In Colorado, Larry Walker was one of the greatest hitters who ever lived. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give a like and subscribe down below. And if you're looking for more stuff like this, make sure you're following Mile High Sports for your coverage of every Colorado team every day. Nobody has meant more to the Colorado Rockies on the baseball diamond than Todd Helton. He holds most franchise records he is eligible for, some of them quite comfortably, and has more than earned the moniker Mr. Rocky. But you could argue, and I'm about to, that he ought to share that title with Vinny Castilla. Castilla played in 1,098 games for Colorado, 5th most for the club, and that is roughly where you will find him on average across most offensive statistics. He was a 3-time Silver Slugger and a 2-time All-Star during the Blake Street Bomber days, then returned at age 36 to lead the National League in RBI in 2004, even garnering some MVP votes, coming in 23rd. After brief stints in Washington and San Diego, Castilla returned home to make sure that when he finally hung him up for good, he was hanging up Rockies colors. He played in 15 games at age 38 in 2006, and that marked the end of his career. But it was nowhere near the end of his impact on the team. Officially retiring on February 7, 2007, he immediately became an assistant to then general manager Dan O'Dowd, preceding the most successful season in franchise history. He has remained with the team ever since, becoming a staple in the clubhouse now on a near daily basis. Castilla's official job title is assistant to the GM, but that hardly encapsulates the entirety of what he does and has done for the on and off field culture of this team. A title that might better suffice? How about the ambassador? Bud Black seems to concur, telling me from January 1st to December 31st, Vinny will represent our organization very proudly. Even the best statisticians have yet to produce a number that can measure wise, sage, guru magic above replacement. There is a school of thought that suggests anything that can't be measured on the field isn't really worth discussing. It's certainly hard to argue that having Castilla around has prevented the ball team from going through more than their fair share of struggles. But how much darker might the dark times have been without his smile? How much briefer the bright times without his guidance? We can't know for sure, but it would absolutely be a mistake to conclude that Castilla's value to the Rockies can be measured by statistics. Other players you might consider for the Rockies' Mount Rushmore include, of course, Todd Helton, Carlos Gonzalez, Troy Tulowitzki, Charlie Blackmon, and Nolan Arenado. Quite frankly, each of those ball players produced more in a Rockies uniform than Castilla did, and most can make the argument of being more talented. But none of them have even come close to giving as much to this team in their post-playing days as Castilla has. But Black says he's a great Rocky. Maybe the greatest, all things considered? On Friday, April 9th, 1993, the Rockies played the third game in the history of the franchise and the first MLB game in Denver at Mile High Stadium. Castilla made his Rockies debut. He subbed in for Freddie Benavides and grounded out to short in his only plate appearance of the game. From that moment to this one, he has been a part of the Rockies' DNA. 9 years playing, 16 as an advisor. That's a quarter century spent in that uniform. The Rockies have never been to the postseason without him. Whether it was mashing homers in his heyday, returning for one last hurrah, or passing on his wisdom to the next generation, the legacy of the Colorado Rockies cannot be separated from the legend of Vinny Castilla. When Andrés Galarraga joined the inaugural Colorado Rockies in 1993, he was far from the superstar he was about to become. At 32 years old, he had played in 942 games for Montreal mostly and St. Louis a bit, and posted a slash line of .267, .322, .432 for a .109 OPS+, leading the league in strikeouts 3 times. He did have one fantastic campaign for the Expos in 1988, finishing 7th in MVP voting, but was declining so much in the following years that, after being traded to the Cardinals and playing just one season, he was simply granted free agency. For 3 seasons prior to coming to Colorado, he ranked below the league average on offense. But a transition to a now famous wide-open stance would see Galarraga experience a renaissance in Denver. Over the course of his 5-year Colorado Rockies career, he would play in 679 games, hit .316, .367, .577, and put up 14.5 wins above replacement, becoming a part of the most indelible group in franchise history, the Blake Street Bombers. Before Coors Field, when the team was still sharing facilities with the Denver Broncos over at Mile High Stadium, Galarraga made the absolute best first impression by establishing a number of important traditions. He became the poster child for hitters to find new life in purple pinstripes, winning the first of 11 batting titles for the franchise by putting up a monster .370 batting average. He on-based .403 and slugged .602 to go with that, giving him an OPS of 1,005 and an OPS plus of 150. His previous high OPS was 893, and his average was 754. Oddly enough, he only hit 22 home runs that season, his low mark in Colorado by 9. In 1996, he led the league in home runs and RBI. In 97, he repeated the feat for the runs batted in, but never was more efficient at the plate than he was in that magical first season. Galarraga would finish in the top 10 in MVP voting 4 times while in a Rockies uniform. He hit 172 home runs, placing him 9th all-time, and that .316 batting average has him tied for 3rd place with Dante Bichette and Todd Helton. Whether they saw it happen live or have only heard stories passed down through time, Rockies fans will forever remember the legend of the Big Cat. Ellis Burks has a strong case to make for being the most underrated position player in Colorado Rockies history. The Blake Street Bomber is often overlooked in favor of the others, but a deep dive into his career numbers reveals a player who, with better injury luck, might have been a no-doubt Hall of Famer. Burks played the first 6 years of his career for the Boston Red Sox and proved himself to be an above-average player across the board, posting an OPS of 800, hitting 93 home runs, stealing 93 bases, and winning a Gold Glove. After one decent season with the White Sox, he signed as a free agent in Colorado at 29 years old and immediately brought with him both parts of his resume, posting a fantastic offensive slash line of .322, .388, .678, while also managing to play only 42 games. Sadly for Burks, and surely a part of what tarnishes his legacy a bit, is that his worst season in Denver came in 1995, the year the team made the playoffs. He wasn't awful, putting up an OPS plus of 102, just above the park and league adjusted average, but he put up a negative 0.4 wins above replacement, the only time apart from the last year of his career where he would do so. He bounced back in a big way though, answering with the best year of his career in 1996, featuring 40 home runs and 32 stolen bases. He led the National League with 142 runs scored, a .639 slugging percentage, and 392 total bases. He put up 7.9 wins above replacement. That was one of the best all-around seasons in Rockies history, as none of Nolan Arenado, Carlos Gonzalez, Trevor Story, or Charlie Blackmon have ever put up a campaign in that uniform at the plate that ranks as well, and only 2 seasons from Todd Helton and 1 from Larry Walker were better in terms of overall WAR. His injuries limited Burks to just 12 wins above replacement in 5 years in Colorado, placing him 13th in franchise history, which is impressive considering he's 23rd in games played. A Gold Glove caliber defender and tremendous athlete in center field, Burks is also 4th in franchise history in OPS+, meaning that on a game-to-game basis, only Walker, Helton, and Holliday were more productive. With 49.8 career wins above replacement, much like Troy Tulowitzki many years later, had Ellis Burks managed to stay healthy, he might have gone down as the greatest Rocky of all time and secured himself a place in Cooperstown. The 1995 National League MVP race was truly a bizarre one, and Colorado Rockies legend Dante Bichette was right in the middle of it. He led the league in hits, home runs, RBI, slugging, and total bases, and ended up placing second to Cincinnati Reds shortstop Barry Larkin. Larkin didn't lead the league in any offensive categories, but did win his second of 3 consecutive Gold Gloves. Though nobody knew what the heck WAR was at the time, Larkin's defense and Bichette's lack of defense, which is another deep dive for another time, gave the Red a strong edge over the Rocky. But if we were to go back in time and apply a modern standard to that year's race, things would look very different. Greg Maddux actually comfortably led the NL in wins above replacement with a massive 9.6, but if you are of the understandable position that pitchers shouldn't win MVP because they have their own award, it was Barry Bonds who got the biggest snub, placing second in WAR with 7.5, but 12th in voting. This is surely because so much of his value came from a flabbergasting 120 walks, 40 more than second place. Somebody cue up Brad Pitt pointing at Jonah Hill. He got on base. Next came Reggie Sanders, also of the Reds, followed by stalwarts of the era Craig Biggio and Mike Piazza. Of the 23 players who received MVP votes, despite finishing second and leading the NL in 5 different offensive categories, Bichette's WAR ranks him 22nd of 23, ahead of only, oddly enough, Andrés Galarraga. This strange dynamic would follow Bichette throughout his career without almost anyone realizing it at the time. He played 7 years in Colorado, posted an impressive .316, .352, .540 slash line, and can be found across almost all of the club's all-time leaderboards for everything from home runs to stolen bases. And yet, he amassed a grand total of 4.8 wins above replacement. For reference, Ryan McMahon has accumulated 12.6 over his career and 6.2 over the last 2 years. Either the numbers are over-punishing him for bad defense, a debate raging in 23 with regards to Kyle Schwarber, or Bichette might have been slightly overrated as an overall player. Either way, he will always remain an icon in Denver for what he did at the plate.